Good day to all. Today we can discuss the topic about how do we plot the response graphs or three-dimensional graphs with the Matlab software. For understanding purpose, I can utilize my journal paper. Generally, the three-dimensional graphs are required x-axis data, y-axis data, and similarly z-axis data. So, three-dimensional plot always requires three datas. Here, according to my experiment, I considered spindle speed and feed rate are the input parameters and thrust force is the output response. Here, spindle speed can be represented with the x-axis, feed rate can be represented with the y-axis, and thrust force can be represented with the z-axis. But how can we represent? Yes, we can utilize Matlab software for understanding this. How can we draw the three-dimensional plots or response graphs? According to this journal, the number one input parameter is spindle speed. The second one is feed rate. So that first we assign the variable as like n for spindle speed, f for feed rate. In that, before going into the plot, we should aware about what are all the intervals available. Here you see the minimum spindle speed is 120 rpm and the maximum spindle speed is 260. First, you identify the uniform intervals between 260 to 120 and feed rate. Here the minimum is 0.02 mm per revolution, maximum is 0.05 mm per revolution. According to this data, I identify the uniform interval for spindle speed is 14 and feed rate uniform interval for 11 integer is 0.003. Likewise, I identified with the normal calculator. And thrust force can be identified through regression analysis. Through regression analysis, I framed the formula as like thrust force is equal to 1.43968 into n. Similarly, I can create the regression formula for considered response. Similarly, you may consider your experimental output value for plotting. So, now I go to plot the graph. First, the spindle speed n is equal to the minimum spindle speed is 120 rpm. The uniform interval I identified with the normal calculator is 14. So the interval value is identified with the 14 and I enter the same value into the command window. After 14 there is a colon symbol, is to symbol. After is to I can assign the maximum spindle speed value which is 260 rpm. Likewise, I can represent. Now, the Matlab software understands, it gives 11 values for spindle speed. Similarly, I can give the lower value and upper value for feed rate also. 0.02 is the minimum value and the uniform interval identified through calculator as 0.003 and maximum feed rate is 0.05. From this I can get 11 feed rate values with the Matlab software. Likewise, first we should assign the x-axis values and y-axis values. After that we should create the grid. From the grid only the Matlab software identify what are all the input parameter, what are all the intervals available with the given input matrix. How can I give? Yes, open square bracket. I can assign as like capital N for spindle speed, capital F for feed rate and close the bracket is equal to. Now I can give the command mesh grid. From this the Matlab software creates a 10 cross 11 matrix mesh grid of small n comma small f. From this Matlab software creates the grid values as like 10 cross 11 matrix. After that, how can we plot? For plotting purpose, we can utilize the z-axis also. How can I give the z-axis value? According to my experiment, the thrust force is the x value, so that now I represent the z value. Already I type the equation with the Word document. Now I can copy that equation and paste it into the Matlab command window as like this. Here you see 1.43968 into star symbol into n minus 688.949362 into f. Likewise, we can type here 10 power minus 3 available, so that I can utilize 8.5840 into 10 power minus 3 available. For the reason, I may utilize 8.58407 e minus 003. Likewise, you can represent the value for exponential values 10 power 3 or 10 power 5. Likewise, you may represent with the mathematical equation. The n square can be represented with the n power symbol, which is available with your keyboard, number 6. So you can press the shift. After that, you can press the 6 number. You can get the power symbol. After that, you may enter square or you may enter the cubical value also, which is also possible with the command window and keyboard invoking method. After entering the equation, we can get the 11 outputs according to our 11 input parameters. Okay, these are all the things. We can enter the input parameter and output parameter, what are the values which are available with our experimental data. And then how can I plot? Yes, now I can move to plot. For the 3-dimensional plot, I can utilize mesh command mesh colon. Here, according to this program, I utilized capital N for spindle speed, so that I enter capital N, F for feed rate, so that capital F, and thrust force capital T. Likewise, I utilize, so that I enter all the value. Now, if I enter, I got the graph. So, from this command, I can plot the 3-dimensional graph or response surface plot with the Matlab software. But the problem is, in x-axis there is no label available, and y-axis also there is no label, and z-axis also there is no label. How can I give the labels for respective axis? Yes, you see the x label, open bracket, colon, spindle speed is available with the x-axis, so that spindle speed, the unit also you can represent spindle speed in rpm. Here colon, enter. Now you can visit the graph. Yes, the x-axis has the label as like spindle speed in rpm. What about y-axis? There is no label available. For the reason, we may go command window. Here also y label or colon feed rate in mm per revolution, mm per revolution, and then colon close. Yes, what happens with graph? Let's see here. Yes, in y-axis there is feed rate in mm per revolution. Likewise, we can label the graph axis, but in z-axis there is no value available. How can I give? Yes, let's see, z label colon. In z-axis I considered about thrust force. Thrust force unit is kgf, so that in kgf, close the bracket. Now you can see what happens with the Matlab graph. Yes, now we can get the thrust force in z-axis, feed rate in y-axis, and the spindle speed in x-axis. Likewise, we can plot the 3-dimensional graphs or response surface plots with the Matlab software. This is the procedure. In figure, there is lot of editor commands are available. From this, you can perform the editing operation also. You can change the color, you can change the text font, you can change the font size. Likewise, we can perform, and also we can edit the graph area. Now you can understand how can we plot the graphs or three-dimensional plots with the Matlab software. If you are having any doubts, you may ask me through comment box. Thank you all.